Well, just got done with today's meetings and first practice of this week, and it's exciting to get going with the start of the season. And certainly appreciate what the players and coaches have done to get us to this point. But there's nothing like game week and starting the season. So it was a good start with it today. I know that you've been or should have received kind of who's out and who's out for the year and who's not in this week, but it was good energy today, and I think everyone on the team's looking forward to having a good week of preparation and getting to play Friday night.
Got mics on either side in the back. Flag them
down. Paul, Mason's moved to fullback. Was that something that developed over this past week, and what qualities does he have that make him a good fit there?
It is, just really had one practice with it, but Mason's a guy that, certainly we're excited to have on the team and was really just had some unfortunate injuries, and yet looking at the combination of what he could do and the depth at our inside linebacker spot and the depth at fullback, and also where he's been with his contributions on the special teams, thought it would be a good fit for him. And first day certainly took to it, and there's a lot to learn, but he's a quick learner and feel good about that switch actually.
Jeff.
Paul, you guys were without in-camp Raphael for a while, and I'm just curious, were you optimistic that he would eventually make it back and just be able to give you what he's done in the past?
We were, and part of it I think was having gone through similar things with Hoff, and then also knowing the timetable on it to where he could get back in and get some work before it. So I thought when he came back, it was he was good, and so I do feel confident in Hoff there.
Paul, in evaluating Western Kentucky, what are the strengths of that team that you've seen? What do you think will be the biggest challenges?
It's always interesting when you play an opener. You don't quite fully know your own team, nonetheless the opponent, and yet you look at it and as a program, that's been a heck of a program, winning program, and you see on the tape a lot of guys that have played and good players, and certainly each week. Each opponent presents some schematic challenges and some things that are different than what you see certainly in camp, and yet it's there's also an energy to that now guys know we're preparing, but it's a good football team, and you watch it and play extremely hard, and know a lot of those coaches and have a ton of respect for those coaches, and when we show the tape to our players and they see good football players, and so it's a good team.
Paul, now that you're done with the preseason, how do you feel about where you are in defense overall, and then at the defensive end specifically, where you're at?
Yeah, I mean, I like what the guys have done, and I think there's a group that's played a lot of football on defense that we have an idea what to expect, and then anytime you're playing. We'll have a number of players will be their first snaps, and so I feel like they're confident and ready for that next challenge. But it is a challenge, and so I've liked what they've done, and I'm excited to see them play. And yet, not one of them has to do it on their own. And I thought Matt Henningsen had a heck of a camp. I thought Caden Lyles had a heck of a camp, and so you can see their growth. And yet now I think the next challenge, the next opportunity is doing it against an opponent.
Paul, we talked to Jim Leonard several times during camp about the battles going on at cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious, when you watched that develop, what did you see there that led, for example, Hicks and Williams to eventually rise to the top, at least for week one?
Right. I thought Jimmy said it really well when we were talking about it, and we like a lot of that group, and where they're at, and if you don't have a huge natural separation, I think one thing that can separate is consistency. And I think that, that's what you saw in Seas and in Fayon, is the consistent approach to it. And, they're young, and they need to keep growing. That whole group needs to continue to keep growing, but they want to. They're really coachable, and I think what becomes kind of a separator, though, is the consistency of it.
Paul, having been in the defense for 4 years now, how valuable can TJ Edwards be for you guys as far as helping the other guys around him, whether it's the young guys on the D-line or the other guys at linebacker?
There's no doubt. I mean, TJ Edwards, he helps everyone on this team, you know, and I think you've got guys with experience. Ryan Connolly is no different than that, and yet I think that, you know, certainly there's a, you know, from the playing, you know, in communication, there's help or there's a comfort when you've got that TJ brings, but TJ also brings an approach that all the guys, you know, defensively and offensively see his approach, and that is a gift that he brings to the team. And so TJ, he brings a ton to this whole team.
Paul, your best offenses here as a head coach or a coordinator have had experienced quarterback, running back, good line,
right,
all those kinds of things. That seems to be present again this year. What do you think is a realistic outlook as to what the production of this offense can be this year?
You know, that's I think you're right. It has some of those pieces that we have a chance to be a really good offense, and I think it's how we come together, and then you have to and you get to go out and do it. And I think that what separates the good offenses from the great offenses is in those moments that you need it to be able to come through. And I think that'll be the opportunity that this group has. And, you know, there's also, you know, we feel like some of those positions we've got depth. Others we're a little bit thinner. And so, you know, staying healthy is important. And yet I'm excited to see this group play.
Paul, the more success Jonathan Taylor had last season, obviously the more attention he got from the other teams. Do you expect coming into this season defenses will focus on him a little more or even more given what he did and what people expect he will be able to do this season?
Yeah, I think that you would have to say certainly, and yet seems like our running back and the run game has always had a lot of focus put on it by opponents. You know, that hasn't changed, and yet certainly, you know, if you're going to play us, you know that we're going to run the football, and we'll always get a lot of attention out of that. So, you know, I think that there's a natural narrative because of JT and what he's done, but I think just when you play us, that's probably a pretty natural approach. So I don't know if you can do it more than what maybe teams have in the past as well.
Paul, it's no secret you're down a couple wide receivers who have produced for you before. That's open opportunities for Dunn and Krumholz. What are your expectations for them short-term and long-term?
Yeah, I think that, you know, both Adam and Jack have played in games. And then I would also add in, you know, there's a couple other young receivers in Taj Mustafa and Aaron Cruikshank. And so hard for AJ and KP just to play the whole game. You know, they're going to play. You know, so your expectations are that they're ready. And certainly you know, Jack and Crum have been in the offense now and can bring you know, the knowledge of knowing what to do and how to do it, and have the ability to make plays, you know, when it comes their way. And then it's making sure that the younger guys know their role, know their spot in it, and I think they can give us some really meaningful snaps on it. And then, you know, you also got to do a good job of kind of relying on all your personnel groups to make sure that you're, you know, as effective as you can offensively.
Paul, John Dietzen and Cole Van Lanen are listed as co-starters at left tackle. Do you expect both of those guys to play a lot on Friday? Is that going to be like a rotation?
You know, we do expect them both to play, and heck, maybe even on the first play we'll start them both and go with it. I don't know yet. No, we'll still have 11. Oh, gee.
Hey, Paul, just curious. I don't think we've spoken to your players since the suspensions were announced. Just from your perspective, how have they handled that whole situation?
I'm proud of the way this group's handled it.
Alec?
Coach, Alex, his quarterback, he seems like his confidence is up. He looks bigger. He looks faster. Would you say right now, going into the season, he's maybe playing his best football since coming to the Badgers?
I would. I mean, he's done a great job since he's come on campus of preparing and always growing. And his last game was a good game, and put a lot of time in since that. We haven't played in a long time, and so I really like where he's at right now, and that's the fun part about the season is you get to go out and play the games, but I like where he's at.
Paul, I think you were kind of joking about starting the two guys, but I know you used Cole Van Lennon as like an extra tight end last year when Xander was out. Do you envision possibly doing that again here early in the season without Xander?
Well, you know what? We'll see, but we're going to try to play our best players.